There's two different motions, I believe. So two different obligees. Here we go. Okay, we are on the record in cause number D1A G19000478. So there are two different motions pending before the court. One is I believe, a suit for modification. Another is a suit for enforcement. All parties are present. So we have Mr. Jeremy Jenkins, Obligor, and we have respondents Ms. Faulkner and Jeffrey Faulkner. And Mr. Jenkins is appearing with his attorney, Mr. Eliansky, and AAG Irvin appearing on behalf of the state. Okay, so let's get folks sworn in. So we have Mr. Jenkins, Ms. Faulkner, Mr. Faulkner. If you can all please raise your right hands. You solemnly affirm the testimony you will provide shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Jenkins, I think I heard you. All right. Okay, Mr. Irvin, you may proceed.
Okay, so Your Honor, the state of Texas filed this action on March 24th of 2023. Mr. Jenkins was served May 3rd of 2023. A consolidation between the two cause numbers was done. Consolidation order was done June 16th of 2023. What we have are two separate orders for Mr. Jenkins to pay two separate people. Firstly, the mother of the child for a couple of years out of a protective order back in 2012, and then an order for Mr. Jenkins to pay the grandfather in the case, Mr. Faulkner, starting in 2019. And that 2019 order is still in place, Your Honor. It's an ongoing order. And I believe all parties can agree that that order should be modified, and that because the child no longer resides with Mr. Faulkner. I think all parties can agree that the child now resides with Ms. Jessica Faulkner, the mother of the child. And parties, I believe, can agree on child support going forward, current child support going forward, starting February 1st of 2024 in the amount of $220, and with government medical assistance and cash medical support of $57. Both obligations to begin February 1st of 2024 for Mr. Jenkins to pay Ms. Faulkner. After that, we lose our agreements, Your Honor. I think I think we can stipulate as to what the state's pay records state. And I'm embarrassed to admit, Your Honor, that I mislabeled one of my exhibits and I need to relabel it. My first exhibit has the arrearage that the state believes Mr. Jenkins owes Ms. Faulkner, and that amount is $9,381.86, and that Mr. Jenkins Mr. Jenkins owes Ms. Faulkner, and that Mr. Jenkins owes Mr. Faulkner child support in the amount of $13,420.68, and medical support of $4,858.24. These were run today, so all both as of dates would be January 23rd. Our issue is that both of these parties have received monies directly And so obviously I will let Mr. Jenkins and his attorney specify that. But that's the main reason we're in front of you at this time, Your Honor. If the court orders large direct pay credit, if the court orders direct pay credits, large direct pay credits, potentially the state of Texas might non-suit its contempt. And because of that issue, I have not negotiated all of the contempt issues at this time, because it's unclear to me what the court's going to do about potential direct pay credits. So
Okay.
there you go, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Eliansky, did you have anything else to add or to clarify?
Good afternoon, Judge. Not really. Mr. Irvin was very concise. We do have a direct pay, just to add on to that a little bit. The direct pay equals to about $16,000 to the mother and close to $5,000 to the grandfather. So with that being said, everything else is basically on point, Your Honor. And we also have filed an affirmative defense for inability to pay. And that's where we stand.
All right. Okay. So Mr. Irvin, I looked at the exhibits. So was there any objection to the amounts that are reflected on the Attorney General's pay history? I understand that there's some, issue with regards to the direct payments, but just what was owed. Is there an objection on that?
To the best of my knowledge, there is not, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So then maybe while we're in testimony, Mr. Irvin, you can send me the pay history for the case between Mr. Jenkins and Miss Faulkner. I have two exhibits, but the pay record is only as to Mr. Jeffrey Faulkner, Jeremy Jenkins.
Yeah, absolutely, Your Honor. In fact, I'm doing that even as we speak. I realized my mistake just moments ago, and that was the mistake that I mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Moments ago, and so that is on its way.
All right, perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Well then, are you ready to move to call your first witness, or did you need a little bit more time?
I am ready, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, Ms. Jessica Faulkner, can you state your full name for the record?
Jessica Faulkner.
And what is your relationship to the child in this case?
Mother.
And what is the child's name and age?
Bobby May Jenkins. She is currently 11 years old.
And with whom does that child currently reside?
With myself.
And how long has that child resided with you?
Since September 20th of 2020.
The protective order that I mentioned in my opening, do you remember when that order was done?
I was done, I believe, April or May of 2012.
Is it possible it was June 26th of 2012?
That is possible, yeah. Guise of child support. They were supposed to just be from their grandmother.
How did you know they were from the grandmother?
But they have the grandmother's name and address and are mailed directly from her.
Okay. And what was the purpose that was stated to you for these payments?
Early on, it was mentioned that regardless.
Technically hearsay, Judge.
Sustained.
Why do you think those were sent to you, Ms. Faulkner?
A loving grandparent who can't be involved.
Do you consent to the court, or do you object to the court applying any of these payments as a direct payment?
I
Correct.
do not agree, but I do not reject.
So do you want the court to apply a credit, or do you not want the court to apply a credit is what I'm asking.
I don't believe they were intended to be applied as credit for child support. So no, I would not agree that that should be the use for them.
Do you know how much the total amount was of the payments that came to you directly?
I can only estimate roughly.
Have you seen Mr. Jenkins's attorney's analysis of the payments?
No, I have not.
Is it possible that you may have received $16,000 worth of payments?
Times. That's the 150 times 12 times. Yes, that's possible.
Were there any payments that were more than $150?
No,
Okay. Do you currently have access to private health insurance through your employer or another source for the child?
I have Medi-Cal, government assistance.
So
for
do you
health.
have private health insurance available to you?
No,
Do you join the state in requesting that the court order cash medical support of $57 a month? Ms. Faulkner, do you join the state in requesting that the court order Mr. Jenkins to pay cash medical support of $57 a month?
yeah,
Do you join the state in requesting that the court order Mr. Jenkins to pay child support in the amount of $220?
yes.
Is there anything about these issues that I have not asked you about that you want the court to be made aware of?
No, sorry.
Your Honor, thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Eliansky, any questions?
No, Your Honor, but we reserve to call Ms. Faulkner as a witness in our case in chief, please.
Okay. Mr. Irvin?
Thank you. I'd like to call Mr. Faulkner if I may, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Faulkner, can you state your full name for the record?
My name is Jeffrey Eugene Faulkner.
And what is your relationship to the child?
She is my firstborn.
So
My
the
daughter.
child subject of the suit, Bobby, I'm referring to.
Oh, I'm grandfather.
You're the grandfather. How long did the child, Bobby, live with you?
I believe it was 3 to 3.5 years.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state would like to introduce into evidence what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2, the pay record in this case between Mr. Faulkner and Mr. Jenkins.
No objection. No objection, excuse me.
Okay, state exhibit number 2 is admitted.
Thank you very much. Mr. Faulkner, did you receive any monies directly from Mr. Jenkins or his family?
From his mother, and it was around $150 a month. There was a time there, I guess, that Mr. Jenkins' father was battling cancer. And the
Objection to
payments-
non-responsive after everything after from his mother.
Sustained.
Mr. Faulkner, can you estimate for the court how much you received directly?
I have no way of knowing.
When was the last time you received a a payment directly from Mr. Jenkins or his family?
Before September 20th?
Of which year?
Uh, 20, I'm really bad with this. The 2020.
And is that when the child moved away from your home around that
Yeah.
time period? What is your position on the court granting some sort of direct payment credit for monies that were given to you by Mr. Jenkins or his family?
I used it to feed Bobby and clothe her. But I thought it was just another caring grandparent trying to do what they could to help.
Objection. Withdrawn.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Faulkner, the court is going to be making a decision on whether to grant some sort of credit. So I'll kind of rephrase it. What do you want the court to apply these direct payments to the balance or not apply these payments to the balance?
As I said, I thought it was another concerned grandparent just trying to help out.
Objection is to non-responsive.
Sustained. Mr. Faulkner, I think the question is either a yes or no.
No,
Okay.
Mr. Faulkner, was there any assistance that came from the the government in terms of supporting the child Bobby during the time the child lived with you?
yes, she received medical, and that was through social services.
There were no other benefits that you may have received from the government for Bobby's benefit during that time period?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is any of this money, are any of the arrears owed to the state of California? Do you know?
I know I went to social services, so there was that.
So what can you, what do you mean by you went to social services?
And she was on Medicare for health issues.
Were you receiving monies from the government for Bobby's benefit?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Is there anything about these issues that I have not asked you about that you want the court to be made aware of, Mr. Faulkner?
Nothing that I could think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Eliansky, any questions?
No, Your Honor, but we do reserve the right to call as witness in our case, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Irvin?
Your Honor, I'm not going to call any more witnesses. I just reserve the right to cross-examine Mr. Jenkins.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Eliansky, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Earlier, Judge, when you asked me if I had anything to state, I didn't realize whether or not there was an opening statement. If I may be allowed an opportunity to make a very brief opening statement now, would that be allowed? Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
May it please the court. Judge, I'm going to make this opening statement very brief in the interest of time. Essentially, it turns out that Mr. Jenkins has been making continued payments from the year of 2013 to 2023. However, these payments have been going directly to Ms. Jessica Faulkner, as well as directly to Mr. Jeffrey Faulkner via USPS money orders. The court will see as one of the exhibits copies of the money orders. The court will hear that Mr. Jenkins has, unfortunately, some very serious issues that he's facing aside from this one. First of all, he is homeless about half the time. Second of all, he was not able to make payments directly to the Attorney General. There are reasons associated with that we will go into his testimony. It goes into his obsessive compulsive disorder, which is part of the reason why he's homeless. He's also been unemployed for a long time now. However, he has been diligently making these payments. The court will hear what he's done. He would make payments where he could. They would go to his mother, who would then send them to the person directly. We ask that the totality of the circumstances be taken into account when the court makes a decision on this case. We ask that he be given credit for the payments made. Barring that, if the court is not inclined, we ask that the payments at least be taken into consideration when the court decides what to do. Thank you.
Okay, you may call your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call Mr. Jeremy Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. If I say something you don't understand, please let me know, because we are on Zoom. Sometimes it can be difficult to hear somebody, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Mr. Jenkins, please state your full name.
Jeremy Michael Jenkins
Where do you currently live?
in Austin, Texas.
Do you have a stable household? Do you have a stable abode, rather?
Yes, right now I do.
Okay.
Sort of. I'm staying somewhere.
Okay. How long have you had the stable abode?
5 months-ish I've been staying here, kind of off and on.
Before the 5 months, what was your housing situation?
I didn't have anything. I was just staying wherever I could. Even my vehicle that I had at the time, or just on a couch. Yeah, wherever I could.
Okay. Let's talk about your employment really quick, okay? When was the last time you were gainfully employed?
2020, right at the beginning of 2020.
Okay, and what happened in I'm sorry. What were you doing?
I was working at a Jewish temple.
Okay. What was your position?
I was kind of whatever they needed, and at the end I was working with the kindergartners.
Okay. What happened in 2020?
COVID. That's it.
How did that affect your employment?
I didn't have any more work.
Okay. Could you find another job?
No.
Did you look for a full-time job?
Yes, I did.
Are you currently looking for work?
Yes, I am.
Where are you looking for work?
Basically everywhere.
Okay. What is your education level?
High school graduate.
Have you had any callbacks for any jobs?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Can you tell the court just briefly where you've been applying?
I used to do landscape work. I'm pretty much every place I could imagine that does that kind of work in the city. Yeah, gosh. Every warehouse I could imagine, or yeah, a handful of warehouses, grocery marts I even applied for. Just no callbacks.
Now, the child support that is made the basis of the suit, it was calculated on you being gainfully employed, right? While you had been gainfully employed. Would that be correct?
Yes.
When was the child support calculated?
And in 2020,
Okay. Were you gainfully employed at the time?
at that time I was.
You didn't file a motion to modify your child support, right?
No, I didn't.
Did you know that was even an option?
I had no clue.
Let's talk about your mental condition, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Did you take your medication today?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Have you ever been diagnosed with anything?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In 2012, 2012, I was diagnosed with depression. What else? OCD and ADHD I was diagnosed with.
How bad is your OCD?
It's bad. I mean,
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
always take your medication?
yeah, I have to. I have to take it every day.
What happens if you don't?
Then I just kind of lose it.
Okay. That's partially why you're homeless, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's a reason.
Have you ever been committed for mental health?
I have, yes, I have.
When were you committed?
Uh, summer of 2023.
What kind of medications are you currently taking for your conditions?
Right now, I am taking a Wellbutrin right now at the moment.
Okay. Do you know the dosage?
450 milligram.
It's pretty high dosage, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Does
so
I object to that question?
Mr. Eliansky?
I'll withdraw that question.
Thank you.
Now, you've been homeless, right?
yes, sir.
You've been jobless, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's your driver's license? Is your driver's license current or has it been suspended?
It has been suspended.
Okay. Does this make finding a job somewhat difficult for you?
Yeah, of course.
Now, even with all that in mind, have you been making semi-regular payments for child support when you could?
Yes.
Have you been making them to the Attorney General?
No, I have at here and there, but the majority, no, not at all.
Where did the bulk of the payments go?
Straight to my folks' house, and then my parents sent to Jessica or her father, Jeffrey.
Now, Judge, I have sent our exhibits to the court. If the court wishes, I can share my screen to reference the exhibit, or understanding that the parties have had it, I can just reference it in passing while asking questions. What does the court prefer?
Okay, well, does Mr. Faulkner and Miss Faulkner, do you have the exhibits that are going to be offered from?
No.
You do not, okay. So Mr. Eliansky, I guess you'll have to share your screen as you offer your exhibit.
Thank you, Judge. And I did send them to Mr. Urban, but well, yes, I did not send them to the Faulkner, so my apologies for that.
Okay,
I'm going to share my screen right now with the court's permission.
go ahead.
Mr. Jenkins, do you recognize what this is?
Is it a receipt?
Okay, and it's a
Yeah,
number, it's a number of receipts, correct?
Yeah, it's the number of receipts, which I have the actual ones in front of me as well. So it's the same ones.
Okay. All right. Is this a true copy of the receipts that you have in your keep?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Have they been modified in any way prior to you sharing with the court here today?
No, not at all.
How did you get these receipts exactly?
They were sent to me.
Okay, who sent them to you?
My folks did.
Okay. You received it in the mail, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we move to admit Exhibit R1, please.
Okay, Mr. Faulkner, any objection to exhibit number 1?
None.
Okay, Ms. Faulkner, any objection to exhibit number 1?
No, sorry. Keep
Okay,
forgetting to say it.
all right, I'm gonna go ahead and, unless you need the exhibit, shared, I'm admitting exhibit, or respondent number 1. Do you need to keep it on the screen?
No,
here?
no, Your Honor, but if I
Okay.
can have permission to share the second exhibit.
Okay,
Second. Okay, Mr. Jenkins, you should be seeing exhibit number 2, which is a graph of the payments made. Do you see it?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins, is this a demonstrative exhibit that demonstrates the payments that were made by those USPS direct payments, both to Ms. Faulkner and Mr. Faulkner?
Okay.
Is that a yes?
I think, yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
They reflect the payments, correct, and the dates and the total, correct?
okay.
Okay, Your Honor, we move to admit this as demonstrative evidence. Exhibit R2, please.
Mr. Faulkner, any objection to exhibit R2?
Just that the payments are saying that it's 350. I never received a payment of 350.
That's a payment. It's a
All the
payment to
payments
Ms.
I
Faulkner.
received were 150.
Just to clarify,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sorry, just to clarify, this is made up of 2 graphs, one for Mr. Faulkner, one for Ms. Faulkner.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay. So do you have an objection, Mr. Faulkner?
No.
Okay. Ms. Faulkner, do you have an objection?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a list. I don't see receipts that corroborate any of this information.
Well, exhibit number 1, I believe, I haven't gone through all the exhibits, with number 1. But am I correct that this is a summary of what these money orders would show, Mr. Eliansky?
That's exactly right, Judge. It's just it's a demonstrative graph that sums up the payments made, the dates and the totals.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna admit exhibit 2, as long as these dates will correspond to exhibit number 1 that was not objected to. So I'm gonna admit number 2.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Jenkins, based on Exhibit R1, which is the totality of the stubs from USPS, and R2, which is the demonstrative graph that illustrates the payment, did you make a total of $16,000 in terms of payment to Ms. Jessica Faulkner beginning on October 28, 2013 through 2023?
Yes, it's around, I believe it's around that amount.
And did you make a payment of payments totaling $4,950 to Mr. Jeffrey Faulkner beginning June 7th, 2017 through August 11th, 2020?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, let's really quickly talk about how that actually worked, the mechanics. Whom would you give the money to?
I would send it to my folks and then they would send it to her.
Okay. And your folks, what would they do with the paycheck stub?
What, say again?
What would they do with the paychecks, I'm sorry, not the paycheck stub, the stub, the receipt? Would they send it back to you?
Yes.
Okay. Why did they send it back to you?
So I can have it on record. So just so it's proven that payments were made.
Okay. Now, you and I have had discussions about paying directly to the Attorney General, correct?
We did.
Uh, do you know if why your mother is not making those payments directly to the Attorney General?
I never said anything.
Okay. Now, are you even set up with an Attorney General portal login?
No, I don't.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. Did you take money that you earned to send to your mother to send to the Faulkners?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the money that we see in the receipts?
Yes.
Um, now that you know the Attorney General can be paid directly, are you going to strive to make the payments directly to the Attorney General?
I will do my best.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And again, you've been counseled several times to make the payment to the Attorney General, yet you've still sent it to your mother, isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is that part of the OCD?
Maybe. I would assume.
Your Honor, I object to that question. Speculation.
Your Honor, based on okay, well, I'll withdraw that question. Mr. Jenkins, do you okay, let's move on and change topics really quick. Do you currently have the ability to comply with fully paying the monthly child support right now?
No, I don't.
Have you had so for the time that their arrearages have run up?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like permission to share my screen to introduce Exhibit R3, please. Yeah. Judge, I was asking if I can share my screen to introduce Exhibit R3.
Yes, sir, you may.
Thank you, Judge. Okay. Mr. Jenkins, what are we looking at right here?
Oh, my bank statement. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Is this a screenshot of from your mobile app that shows your balances?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Has it been changed or modified in any way prior to sharing it with the court here today?
No, not at all.
Okay. Is this from today?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a true and correct version of what you have when you pull up your mobile app, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, we move to admit R3, please.
Any objection?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Faulkner?
There's no date on it, so I don't get it, but okay.
No objection then?
Sure.
I don't understand your response, Ms. Faulkner.
I mean, I would object to the fact that there is no documented date on here. We're just assuming that it is as of today at 2:56. That's an odd layout. It looks suspicious to me.
Okay, Mr. Faulkner, any objection?
No,
No objection, Mr. Faulkner. Okay. Ms. Faulkner, your objection is overruled and exhibit number 3 is admitted.
Thank you, Judge. I'm just going to keep this on the screen just for a bit, Mr. Jenkins, just to clarify. Is this your checking account, your credit card, and your savings account, correct?
It is. Yeah.
What bank is it with?
Texas Health Credit Union.
Okay. When did you take this screenshot?
Just a few hours ago.
Okay. Is it modified in any way?
No, not at all.
Okay. So is it correct to say that you're available balance in checking is a negative $148.44.
That's it.
And your credit card, your available balance is $1.71, correct?
That's it. Yep.
And you also have a balance on your credit card of close to $4,000, correct?
Yep.
And your regular savings is zero, correct?
Yes.
Okay, stop sharing my screen now. Have any other accounts?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you have property that can be sold, mortgaged, or otherwise pledged to raise the funds needed?
No, not at all.
Do you have a vehicle?
Yeah, I do. It's an older vehicle.
What kind of vehicle is it?
It's an old 2002 Toyota Tacoma truck.
Have you tried to get a title loan for it?
No,
Okay. Do you think it would qualify for any kind of loan in its shape?
no, not at all.
You have the ability to borrow the funds from anyone?
I don't know. No.
What's your credit score like?
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, low.
And how do you know that?
Because of I knew it was low in the first place, and then I did recently check it, and because of child support, it's even lower. So
Do you remember the score?
no, I don't.
Do you know of any other source of money for child support payments that you have access to?
No.
Have you, the child support that you have not paid, the arrears that you've run up, have you done that in order to impede, embarrass, or obstruct the court?
No, not at all.
Do you not pay child support willfully?
No, no.
Okay. In fact, you have paid child support just directly, correct?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Are you asking the court to find today that you lack the ability to pay the current arrears?
Yes.
Are you asking that the court recognize the direct payments that were made by you to Ms. Faulkner and Mr. Faulkner as child support payments?
Yes.
Your Honor, we're going to pass the witness.
Mr. Irvin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Jenkins, did you have an attorney on the December 4th, 2019 order under Uniform Interstate Family Support Act?
I did.
And did your attorney discuss with you page 6 about paying all your support? And page 8, paying all your support to the registry of the state of Texas?
I would assume so.
Since you made, well, why did you make any payments to the state of Texas if you didn't realize you were supposed to make payments to the state of Texas?
I know I'm supposed to. All these years, I've been making direct payments. Just as long as I keep a receipt, I should be good because that receipt is there. That's what I'm just used to doing.
So the payments that were made directly by you equaled something like $20,000, something like that?
It's close to 22.
Okay. And so how did you make all these payments, these thousands of dollars worth of payments? Where were you working when you made these payments, I should say?
I was working at a Jewish temple early on, and I made enough just to pay $350. I was homeless also pretty much all those years. And when COVID hit, I paid some what I could, and if you look at the records, I paid here and there. I didn't just pay all at one time. And so all I paid every single month direct, I will always pay direct no matter what, is $150. That's all I can afford.
In the summer of 2023, you were committed somewhere, you said?
I was.
How did you make a payment in August of, and June and July of 2023 when you were committed?
Because I only committed for, I think, 42 hours. It was just a weekend. That's it. It wasn't like a whole month. And I didn't commit myself. Like, that was concern from family members and my psychiatrist.
Understood. Have you ever been given a doctor's order that said you are not capable of working?
No, not for my mental.
Period.
Say again?
For any reason. I mean, does there exist a doctor's order that says you cannot work?
Not a doctor's order,
Yeah.
no.
Have you applied for Social Security benefits due to a disability?
No, not at all.
Why not?
I don't know anything about it.
You've never heard of Social Security disability?
I know Social Security, but I don't know anything about that.
Is that because you're not disabled?
Disabled?
Correct. I'm asking you if you're disabled.
Are you talking about physically or mentally?
Either.
Well, I did do 2 MRIs, which I didn't mention that I do have back injuries going on, but I didn't get a work order for that, mentally. Like, I'm just like millions of people in this world. Yeah, I'm mentally challenged.
When was the last time you saw a physician about your mental issues?
On Monday.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions for this. Actually, I do. Mr. Jenkins, do you have any safety concerns about your contact information being in this order?
I don't think so.
Well, it's kind of a yes or a no.
No.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness. I would like to recall very briefly Mr. Faulkner and Ms. Faulkner to ask them very briefly about potential safety concerns.
Okay, before we go there, Mr. Eliansky, did you have any other questions for your client?
No, Judge, thank you.
Right. Ms. Faulkner, do you have any questions for the witness?
Yes, actually, if
Okay.
I'm allowed.
Go ahead, yeah, you're allowed.
There's public postings on social media of him working a tattoo convention 5 days ago. There's also public
Objection,
photos
Judge. Your Honor,
available.
objection, parties testifying. It's
Okay,
not a
Ms.
question.
Faulkner. Right, okay, so Ms. Faulkner, since you are here representing yourself, you ordinarily, if you had a lawyer, your lawyer would be allowed to ask questions of the witness, okay? But since you are here representing yourself, then you can ask questions, but you must ask questions.
Okay,
And so I'm sustaining the objection that you were testifying, okay? So
got it.
if you have a specific question for Mr. Jenkins, then you need to ask that question. If it seems that you're testifying again, I'll need to stop you.
Okay,
You're good.
understood. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Go ahead.
Is it true that you have been working for Luna Pigments of Austin, Texas?
Not working, helping. I'm not disabled. I
You're
can move.
not receiving any compensation for your services to Luna Pigments, which you claim as your I'm sorry, statement.
That's how I eat. That I will help people here and there. I'm not 100%. I can walk, I can move, could do things. I just don't make a lot of money. And that's it.
I believe, so are you testifying that you don't make any money? You're
No,
paid in food
Objection,
to
excuse
work
me, Ms.
for
Objection.
Luna?
Hold on, Ms. Faulkner, Mr. Eliansky,
I'll withdraw the objection.
thank you. Ask your question again, Ms. Faulkner.
I'm sorry. Do you receive money from Luna Pigment for your services
no, I
in
don't.
any amount?
No.
Are you taking your medication? Is it specifically for OCD?
I take medication for OCD and depression.
So your doctor is prescribing you Wellbutrin for OCD,
Well, for depression.
for depression. So you are not medicated for your OCD.
Yes, I am medicated for OCD.
But Wellbutrin is not for OCD.
Objection, Your Honor, as to party, I'm not sure if that was a question or a statement. So I'm just trying to clarify that.
Is your Wellbutrin for
Ms.
OCD?
Faulkner, I'm sustaining the objection.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Jenkins has answered the question with regards to the purpose of the medication. Because it sounded what you were testifying is more of a diagnosis and the medical purpose, which you are not an expert in that area.
Correct.
Okay.
You're right. I think Mr. Irvin already asked the only other question that I had, which was why are payments supposedly being made directly when you have utilized submitting them appropriately very recently in the past year and
Ms.
also
Faulkner,
at the
I'm going
beginning?
to stop you from testifying, and since he's already been asked that question and he answered that question, then we need to move on. Do you have any other questions?
Nope, I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Faulkner, do you have any questions for this witness?
None whatsoever.
Thank you.
No.
All right, Mr. Eliansky.
Judge, I don't have any further questions. I do have a very quick closing statement if the court would allow.
Okay, let's see. Mr. Irvin, did you have a closing you would like to make first since you're petitioner?
Your Honor, I apologize. Would it be possible for me to call very, very quickly Ms.
Yes.
Faulkner and Mr. Faulkner for just a very limited question?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Ms. Faulkner, has there ever been a protective order between you and Mr. Jenkins?
Yes,
What year was it?
2012 through 2014.
Do you have any safety concerns about your contact information being placed into this court order?
Yes.
Why?
Jeremy.
Objection to relevance, Judge. We don't object to Ms. Faulkner's information not being in the court order. And with that, since we don't object, there's really no reason to testify to this.
And Your Honor, I'll let the witness go based on that.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any other questions for Mr. Faulkner?
I just want to double check about Mr. Faulkner's. So Mr. Faulkner, do you have any safety concerns about your contact information being
No.
in this court order? One more time?
No.
No further
No.
questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Did you have a closing?
I do, Your Honor. Your Honor, the state of Texas would object to payments that have been made by a family member to the primary conservator in lieu of child support being credited as child support. And especially objecting to a credit that is more than the support has come due. In particular, what I mean is there has been, according to Mr. Jenkins, $16,000 worth of payments made to Jessica Faulkner, but only $9,381 is owed, and in total only $11,556 has come due, period. So a credit of more than what was paid to her, the state would object to. State would object to that overage if it's considered that applying to Mr. Faulkner's, the arrearages that are owed to Mr. Faulkner, since they were not received by Mr. Faulkner. Mr. Jenkins has testified that he has worked in the past, and that he is perhaps is currently working, in that payments have been received by the AG's office within the past 6 or 7 months, and there have been payments, if they're considered payments, being received by the parties as recently as August of 2023. So if Mr. Jenkins is making payments, then that means the money is coming from somewhere, and he testified that he has been working. So therefore, the state would request that the court make a finding that Mr. Jenkins was capable of making payments and failed to do so, that he be held in contempt for the maximum sentence, which is 180 days. The state would not request an instanter commitment today, but would request, if the court orders contempt and a sentence today, would request a deferred commitment with a review date approximately 3 months from now. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Eliansky?
you, Judge. Your Honor, in my closing, I will reference some case law, which has also already been sent to the court earlier today. Judge, contempt is defined as conduct meant to disobey or disrespect the court by acting in opposition to the court's authority, or to commit an act that is reasonably calculated to impede, embarrass, or obstruct the court in discharge of its duties. That comes from Ex parte Chambers, a 1995 Texas Supreme Court case, a case I've shared with this court. It is pretty obvious from the evidence and testimony taken by the court today that this is not the case with Mr. Jenkins. We've heard that he is often homeless. Right now he's not, but he has in the past been, and even now he's not really staying somewhere where which is his own abode. The court has seen that he's cash poor with no assets and no ability to comply with that order, and that is uncontroverted testimony and evidence. We've heard that he has mental issues, unfortunately, as well as physical issues. We've heard that he has OCD, and it is frankly my belief that his OCD has been stopping him from making payments regularly. I think, and I believe that Mr. Jenkins is locked in, so to speak, into making the payments to, sending it to his mother. And if the court is aware, of course, how people with OCD act, this is very, very common. This is a comfort for them. They do something that they believe that's supposed to be right, and that makes everything right. He literally can't make payments with the AG. There's been a few times where he did directly, but that doesn't mean that the issue is not there. We know that Mr. Jenkins has an inability to comply as to the child support that he had run up according to Texas Family Code 157.008C. This, of course, has been held up in the Texas courts. We've sent you case law. Excuse me, I've sent the court case law, ex parte in glut. Good case law, which I've shared with the court. Mr. Jenkins doesn't have the ability to provide support. He lacks the property that could be sold, mortgaged, or otherwise pledged to raise the funds. He cannot borrow funds, nor does he know of any other place to get them. That is the very definition of an ability to comply, and Mr. Jenkins fits that to a T. And again, that is uncontroverted testimony, uncontroverted evidence. We do know that he has been making payments when he can, but tragically, he's been making them directly to his mother, who would then send it out to the party she thought was correct. Now, Judge, the Texas Supreme Court in Ochsner versus Ochsner, and we've shared this as well, states that a trial court, when adjudicating a child support enforcement action, can consider evidence of direct payments that were not precisely compliant with the original support order. If the obligor made direct payments that satisfy the obligation, the trial court is permitted to consider these payments when confirming the amount of arrearages. The court may consider these and decide whether and how much of the obligation has been discharged. Furthermore, direct payments can never discharge a support obligation if the support order, Chapter 157 of the Family Code recognizes that direct payments are not uncommon, and the trial court may consider them in determining whether an arrearage exists. This is in the same case, Ochsner versus Ochsner. For the purpose of determining the existence and amount of arrearages according to the same good case law, Chapter 157 permits trial courts to count direct payments. Now, Judge, it is the testimony and the belief of Ms. Faulkner's and the Attorney General that money was not meant as child support. However, we've heard testimony by both parties, I believe, that that money was used to feed and clothe the child. That's the very nature of what child support was intended for. Curiously, Ms. Jenkins' mother, who was the one making the payments when Mr. Jenkins sent the money to her, was never subpoenaed by the Attorney General, even though this case has been here for months. The Attorney General and the parties have been talking. They've been aware of the situation. So the fact that she was not subpoenaed to testify talks volumes on the Attorney General. And finally, Judge, know that the Attorney General had mentioned that some payments were made and therefore he's able to make payments. Well, it's one of those things where you are damned if you do and damned if you do not. If he doesn't make any payments at all, of course, he's seen as in a bad light. If he's making some payments where he can, then the argument is he can make payments, and therefore he should be held accountable. Based on the evidence and testimony we have here today, it is obvious that Mr. Jenkins is underemployed at best. He's homeless most of the time. He has a mental issue. And he's doing the best he can. To incarcerate him would be an affront to justice, not be in the best interest of the child, and frankly, further just exacerbate the situation, not be in anybody's best interest. So therefore, we ask the court does acknowledge those payments that were made. Again, there's no testimony or evidence that they were not meant as child support, but there is testimony and evidence that they were. The court has full power to do so. We're talking about $21,000. So we're asking the court does take that into consideration and does count that towards the child support. If not, then we ask that the court at least holds that in consideration when making its decision. We ask the court does not find Mr. Jenkins in contempt. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your patience. I know I kept you probably longer than I wanted to, but we needed to get some final orders on this case. All right, so let me find the motion. Okay. All right, so let's start with disclosure of address. So as to the disclosure of address for Miss Faulkner, that is granted. So non-disclosure is granted for her and not for Mr. Jeffrey Faulkner. Okay, prior support order as to Miss Faulkner. So based on State's Exhibit number 1, arrears owed as of yesterday, January 23rd, 2024. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it has to be, even though this pay record says December 31st, but it is as of yesterday. Nothing else has accrued. I don't think. Is that right, Mr. Irvin?
I believe that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Although interest would have accrued.
Well, I think it wouldn't accrue until the last day of January. I think.
Oh, yes, you're right. Okay, so interest through December 31st. I forget what year I'm in. Okay, so that as of December 31st, 2023, total owed was $9,381.86. I do find that Mr. Jenkins did make direct payments. And I did go over the Oxner case. I'm familiar with the Oxner case. So I am applying direct payments towards that balance. The amounts that I considered were from Mr. Jenkins Exhibit number 1, and then I cross-referenced those receipts with the summary in respondent number 2. And so the total that was paid according to these money orders, where Jessica Faulkner was the payee, totaled $14,825. So if some of that money was intended to Mr. Faulkner, it didn't go there. So all that money that probably should have gone to Mr. Faulkner didn't go to Mr. Faulkner, went to Ms. Faulkner. So judgment as of December 31st as to what is owed to Ms. Faulkner is 0. So because of the direct payments. Okay. Child support arrears as to is owed to Mr. Faulkner. All right, so so we have 2 different balances. So let me get to that pay record. All right, so as of now, this one is updated as of today. So as of January 23rd, 2024, the balance owed under this pay history is $13,420.68. And the balance owed for medical support is $4,858.24. And so the total is $18,278.92. What I heard was that the child was on government Medicaid in the state when she was residing there. So those funds that accrued, I believe, is not the property of Ms. Faulkner. So that is still a state debt, but I don't know how much that is. So what I did is I added the money orders that were made payable to Mr. Jeffrey Faulkner, and that amount totaled $4,500. So I subtracted that from the $13,000 balance from the child support column. So judgment for child support arrears owed to Mr. Faulkner is $8,920. That's after the direct payments are applied. And judgment for medical support is $4,858.24. And so those 2 judgments are rendered against Mr. Jenkins. Payment plan. Payment plan for the child support judgment is ordered at $100 monthly. And the payment plan for the medical support judgment is $50 monthly. So 150 for the arrears, and that will begin February 1 of 2024. Okay. Getting to the modification. So the current support obligation for payable to Mr. Faulkner is modified effective today. So that's going to be terminated. And Miss Faulkner will now be the obligee. So child support will be made payable to Miss Faulkner effective February 1st, 2024, and the amounts that were stated on the record. So $220 per month in child support and $57 monthly in medical support. And Miss Faulkner will continue with government medical assistance for the child in the state where she resides. As to contempt, I believe that after hearing the evidence and hearing testimony by Mr. Jenkins, I find that he was able to prove affirmative defenses, so the contempt is denied. As to court costs are waived against Mr. Jenkins. And I think that these are final orders. So let me give some information to Mr. Faulkner and Miss Faulkner. So folks, I am the associate judge for the court. My decisions can be appealed. So if you disagree with my ruling, you may request a new hearing before a district court judge. The time frame to request that hearing is 3 working days after I sign orders. Mr. Irvin will prepare the order. It's going to take a little time because we have 2 different cases that have come together, but he will get that out to you for your review. If you disagree with the ruling, your signatures are not necessary. So Mr. Irvin may certainly submit the order for my signature. But we're not going to hold it up because you don't like the ruling. So if that's the case. And you will receive a copy. And if you decide you want like a new hearing, you have those 3 days. And you would just set it before the district court. Make sure you send notice to everyone in this case so everyone knows when to appear. And then you'll have a new hearing. Okay. All right. Any questions, Mr. Irvin or Mr. Eliansky?
Yes, Judge.
Go ahead, Mr. Eliansky.
No, Mr. Irvin, you first, by all means.
I apologize, Your Honor, on the judgment for child support arrears to Mr. Faulkner. The possession or the direct paid credit was $4,500, and so the judgment would be $8,920.68. I just want to double check.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm sorry, I left the cents out. You're right. 68.
Thank you very much, John.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mr. Eliansky?
Yes, Judge. Am I discharged from the case? I'm
That's right.
appointed.
Yeah, you are. Yes. So yes, we need to add language that Mr. Eliansky is discharged as attorney of record for Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. All right, folks. So I think that's it. So we'll go ahead and stop our